pronouns go. Pronouns. Everybody's favorite. Welcome. Come in. Y'all see that red? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna skip some of this. Good morning. A pronoun. Pronouns following than or as. Pronouns following than or as can be used as subjective or objective, as the case may be. Okay. However we. Okay. Let's do this. Joe is better than she or her. Which one?
Her.
Do we have a second answer?
She.
Okay, there's a reason. Okay, there's a reason. Because if you finish the sentence, Joe is better than.
Well, if you put it that way, yeah. It is she.
That's the way you got to put it. You got to put it that way. Joe is better than she. She is. Because what's going on here is you have a subject and a verb. Okay, you have to have a subjective pronoun that goes with that verb.
Wait, so why did we start using her and him then? Because we're Southern.
It's just incorrect.
Yeah, but like, how did we get to using that? That's how everything happens.
I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that as we go along. There's a lot that, yeah, I want to talk about that in a minute. Okay. So when you come to something like this, go ahead and finish the sentence with a verb and see which one fits. Joe is, let me do another one. She likes him more than I or me. Yeah, more than I do. Right? She likes him more than I do. But what if you're saying she likes him more than she likes me? Then it would depend on what you're actually trying to say. Okay, so either one of these could be used, but depending on which one you use, you're changing the meaning. Because if you say she likes him more than I, then what you're saying is she likes him more than I like him. But if you say she likes him more than me, she likes him more than she likes me. You see the difference? So just depending on which one you use, you're going to change the meaning of what you're saying here. Yes? Okay. Okay. Next. That is easier to erase than the green one.
And don't leave no redness behind.
Yeah, doesn't leave a residue. Yep. Okay, still on pronouns. Not talking to me. Dave and which one of these works? Dave and she or her danced. She. It is she. But why? Why is it she?
Because if you say she, then you can't say her.
Yeah, so if I cover this up, and it's just the one, if it's just the one that's dancing, do you say she danced or do you say her danced? Well, it's she. Obviously, it's she. But why? Why? Why is it she instead of her? Right. This is the verb. And if we're covering this up, one of these has to be the subject. One of these has to be the subject for this verb. So you have to choose a subjective pronoun. We've talked about this before. Remember this when we talked about subjective and objective? There's a reason why something sounds right and the other thing doesn't sound right, because you haven't used the right pronoun. There's a reason for it. Jack and me or I are on the way. Which one, Ethan?
What?
Is it me or I? It's I. Jack and I are on the way. Because if you cover up Jack, you don't say me is on the way. It's incorrect, right? But why is it incorrect? Because this is an objective pronoun and this is a subjective pronoun, right? So if you've got is on the way, I am on the way, this is your subject, there's the verb, you have to have a subjective pronoun. Yes? Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna give you another one. One more. Maybe just one more. The singers were John and them or they? They.
You can't say them or singers.
Yeah, you can't. Okay, so you're flipping it around, which is what that's where I was going. The singers were John and they. Okay, because if you flip the sentence around, you can say they were John and they were the singers. Yeah, you see it? Okay, so what's going on here? There's your verb, right? Can y'all see this? Because I have wings on this classroom. All right, the singers, who were the singers? John and they. Who are John and they? They are the singers. They are the singers.
I thought you were trying to get us to come up with a band name for them. Because John and they is just not good enough.
I'm really going to leave that up to you. Okay. Predicate nominative. We're not really going to dig into this right now, but predicate nominative. So what you have is you have the singers, that's the subject, then you have them renamed after the verb. But you can flip it around. So since this is the subject and you're renaming the subject, you have to use a subjective verb. I mean a subjective pronoun. That's a lot. We good? Okay. All right. I think that's all I want to do with that. Y'all want to do any more of that?
Not particularly.
No? You want to do more of that? Okay. Poetry. This is our last week of poetry, y'all. This is our last week of it. Some of y'all don't like poetry very
I'm
much.
actually really upset because now I have to write short stories.
Okay.
I'd rather write short stories than
Yeah.
I think I'd rather cry and then put toothpicks under my toenails and kick a wall. That's what I would rather do.
That's exactly the way a poet would say that. What imagery?
You know you see it.
What image? Yeah, I see it. I feel it too. I feel it too. It hurts me kind of right here to think about it. I don't know why you would do that, Kayla. I don't know why you would even think of that. Okay, so some of us love poetry. Some of us would rather not ever write another poem, and we would choose to write stories.
Maybe make us write another poem like that one you had us write last week.
Okay, so okay. Nobody liked the Pyradelle. I liked the Pyradelle, or I wouldn't have had you write it. I liked it.
No, you just don't like us. You're like, this sucks. Let's make them all right.
It's false. I liked it.
It's hard for me to read them. It just
Yeah.
Made my brain hurt.
Yeah.
I didn't like the villanelle that much. I didn't like that thing that much. But the one you had us write last year that was like that.
Pantoum.
I like
It was
that
a pantoum.
Oh, yeah.
I like
You
that.
like the pantoum?
That one I could deal with. This I could not get behind.
You agree
I
with that,
like this
Sarah
one.
Catherine? You like the pantoum also? Okay. We're not writing a pantoum right now.
What are we writing?
If you didn't like the villanelle, you might not like what we're gonna do this week.
Oh crap! Is it a villanelle?
It's not a villanelle.
I didn't hate the villanelle. I wasn't passionate about it. You know?
Okay. All right. Well, there are going to be some things that you're going to write that you're not going to be passionate about. Stories, for instance. Bring out the toothpicks.
Are you gonna like give us a prompt about a short story or like about will it be like about a certain person or something?
It's a style, right? Like the
Yeah.
language.
We won't start, well, I don't need to talk about this right now. We're not going to start with full stories. We'll start with descriptions. But we have one more week of poetry.
Hoorah.
One more week of poetry.
But I'm not gonna like it. Dang it.
Probably a choice,
Ending
Layla.
us on the
It's
sour
probably a choice. It's probably a choice. Okay. Kristen. Jessica. Take and pass.
I don't mind that. I don't mind essays or papers.
Okay. So most of you didn't really care for the Paradell. Overall, the scores were a little lower this week. Overall, the scores were a little lower because I think most people agreed with Jana and said, I don't like reading this.
It made my brain
I don't like
hurt.
trying to figure this out. I don't like
No,
reading
we're
this.
not gonna read it all.
I mean, it was a lot. There was a lot there. But some of you excel at puzzles. And I liked it. It was kind of a puzzle. So. It was kind of a puzzle. It was kind of a. Okay, just leave it there. Who's missing? Is somebody missing? Look around you. Morgan is missing.
There is no other girl. There's no other girl.
I'm pretty sure she had like a death in the family or something.
Well, yeah, that's true. I don't know.
Say what?
Morgan, been out a couple of weeks. I don't know. She might be sick or something.
Maybe she just doesn't like us. Billy and Sally together, aren't they?
Okay,
Oh my
no. We're
goodness.
not doing that right now.
Oh my
No.
goodness. I looked at it and I was like, I've heard
Okay.
this. And then I was like, oh my goodness.
There's a reason that it's in there, and I'm going to get to that. There's a reason that it's in there. All right, but we're not going to start with that. So when you're reading poetry, there's no reason that you have to just make a snap decision about whether you like it or whether you don't. All right. So, okay. So y'all know the movie Dead Poet Society? Y'all seen that? Have y'all seen
I
that?
know of it.
Okay. So there's a scene right toward the beginning where he has them open up their books and just rip out one of the essays. You know that one? He has them rip out, and I think it's the guy that I've been teaching from this year. Lawrence Perrin wrote a book called Sound and Sense, and I've been teaching out of that book all semester so far. And I like what he's saying, but the point of the movie, as popular culture has gone, the point of the movie was, you have to find truth and goodness within yourself, and you don't have to follow certain rules. And so they were ripping out the essay at the beginning that gave a metric for how you measure what's good poetry and what's not. He didn't want them looking at, you're looking for this and you're looking for this and you're looking for this, and how does this poem measure up? So they just ripped it out. He didn't want them looking for that. I've used it. I've used it all year long. I think you have to have some kind of measurement, but in our popular culture, if you tell somebody they have to measure up to a certain standard, they say, well, who are you to tell me that there is a standard at all? That's where we are.
And then you get to the moral argument for the existence of God.
Yeah, but also when you have somebody saying the rules don't matter, there are no standards, that's why you start being okay with using the wrong pronouns. Jessica asked, how did we get to the point when did we start saying it wrong?
Wait.
When did we start saying
Is that what you were talking about? Oh, I was just having a stroke apparently. I apologize.
I don't even know what you're talking about right now.
Don't worry about it.
But
How we got to using her, him.
starting it, yeah. It's using the wrong pronoun in the wrong place.
That's what I definitely thought you were talking about.
Is that not what you were talking about, Jessica?
Which one are we talking about? What are we talking about?
Never mind.
Disregard.
Never mind. Okay. When you're reading a poem, one of the things that you need to ask yourself is, what is this poet trying to accomplish? What is the point? What is the point of this poem? What is this poet trying to say? And have they accomplished what they set out to accomplish? Have they said what they actually meant to say? Okay. So could you, when you're reading a poem, could you change the order of the words and maintain the meaning of the poem? And if it's a great poem, then you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to just mess with their order and mess with their wording, because they were intentional enough about what they said that when you change what they did, then you actually mess up the meaning of the poem. You mess up what they were doing. So I'm going to give you some different kinds of poems today. And the first one that I want to talk about is a sentimental poem. A sentimental poem is something that you might find at the top of a day planner, or you might find it in
Not
In
the
a-
shade to the day planners.
a greeting card,
Or the greeting
or
card.
something like
What?
so basically what's happening is somebody is using words that are intentionally trying to evoke emotions. They're using mother or baby or puppy or love. They're using words that are intending to draw you in just emotionally. Y'all with me so far?
Mhm.
Okay. So the first one on your sheet starts off very sentimental. There's the wonderful love of a maid, and the love of a staunch true man, and the love of a baby that's unafraid. All have existed since time began. But the most wonderful love, the love of all loves, even greater than the love for mother, is the infinite, tenderest, passionate love of one dead drunk for another.
That's
Okay.
terrible.
So it starts off very sentimental, and then the last line lets you know that really this poet is just making fun of the sentimentality of all of this gushiness. That's what this poem is for. It's just because there is nothing really gushier and lovey-doveier than somebody who's drunk loving on somebody else.
You're kind of right.
Yeah. But I don't know who wrote this. It's an anonymous poem, but there is a sentimentality a lot that goes into poetry where somebody's just trying to grab you by the emotions. That's it. So and somebody who is going to go for that is somebody who already is overly emotional, who cries at toothpaste commercials and we're not going to point any fingers now. Somebody who cries at every single wedding, whether they know the person or not. Somebody who's just really, really.
Why would you cry at a wedding? Is this supposed to be happening?
Because
Okay.
you want to for a lonely, miserable existence.
Leela,
yeah,
stop that. Stop that. No, people do get really sentimental at weddings. Y'all know this, right?
Yes.
Some people cry.
What?
I know it was when I was like 4 actually. I barely remember. I remember playing.
Did you dance?
No.
I bet you're a dancer. I bet you're
Not
an
even a little
animal on the dance floor.
Okay. Wouldn't you like to know? All right. Okay. Sentimental poetry. There is sentimental poetry. The next,
Jingles.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Okay. The next category is rhetorical. And last year we talked about rhetoric, and that is just the art of speaking well or the art of communicating well. That's what rhetoric is. But a rhetorical poem is that style is just going to be somebody who wants to use really fancy or big words they're just trying to show off their wordiness. Okay, that would be like some sandals ad or something like that, something like beach resort. And you hear from the sun-washed, glittering white beaches and the soothing, relaxing waves to the friendliest welcome of a traditional Southern hometown hospitality. La, la, la,
That's
la,
supposed to be a poem.
just no, just wordiness, just wordiness.
I've listened to those commercials and never put together that was supposed to have meter.
No, I'm not saying that that is poetry. I'm just saying that it's just extra roughage in the language. It's just too much. You're just trying to impress with the words that you're using instead of what you're trying to produce.
That's like poetical sophistry, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Extra wordiness. Any questions about extra wordiness? Okay.
I think I pretty much got that one.
You got that one. Okay. Now, didactic. Didactic poetry is poetry that is really, poetry is intending to grab you by the senses, grab you by the imagination, grab you by the imagery. Okay. But a didactic poem is just something that's trying to teach a lesson or preach. Hence the jingles that are in there. Okay. So these are jingles that I wrote for the elementary and the middle school classes because I need them to know what pronouns are and I need them to know the difference between a subjective and an objective pronoun. Okay. There's not this, and I think I would just call this verse. I wouldn't call it poetry. There's no imagery in it. There's
Johnny Fallen is pretty traumatic for me. I can really see that.
okay.
Off the fence? Johnny.
Okay.
I feel like we've just all lived that experience. Having a child.
The intention of these is just to teach. They're
Really?
just to teach.
Look, I feel it in my
There's
soul
nothing.
right
Oh my
here.
goodness. Oh my goodness.
Well,
Okay. So at some point, I only had one of these, and then I wrote the second one. Did you do both of these? Did I
Yeah.
do both of these?
Oh yeah. With passion.
Some of y'all enjoyed the jingles. I don't think everybody does.
I think some of us wish we had jingles in high school.
You like the second one better?
Yeah, we did when I was in middle school.
Yeah.
Sentence so
Complete when 5 simple rules here. Meets. Remember, subject, verb, complete sense, capital letter in part 2. That's what a sentence is all about.
You can't ever get those out of my brain.
Wonderful.
Like I could.
That is a didactic poem. It taught you. I did not write that one. The one that you just did, that's a Shirley jingle.
Which ones did you write?
Most of them.
Like what?
Like these.
Wait, what was the one I always liked?
I have no idea.
Yes, you do.
Hummingbirds.
Yeah, I like that one. We
Yes.
can't do this right now. We have to like.
No. We're not doing helping verbs. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Yes. I did write that one.
It
worked. It worked. It worked. A didactic poem is just something that teaches. You're just trying to teach. You're just trying. Some people use it as, they use it in sermons. It's just for teaching and preaching. Okay. Moving on.
I should get my dad to do that.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, be like, you have to preach your whole sermon, and I am contaminated. Get to it.
I don't know. Don't think it's gonna work. Okay. Okay. All right. So when you're looking at poetry and you're trying to decide what's good and what's bad, then you really need to ask yourself what's the point? What's the author trying to do? So look at just to be tender. Just to be tender. Just to be true. Just to be glad the whole day through. Just to be merciful. Just to be mild. Just to be trustful with faith like a child. Just to be gentle and kind and sweet. Just to be helpful with willing feet. Just to be cheery when things go wrong. Just to drive sadness away with a song. I'm not going to finish reading all of that.
There's a rhyming pattern.
There is. It all rhymes. Yes. So what would you guess might be the point of something like this? What does it make you think of? What?
Serve God.
Okay. It makes me, I don't know who wrote it, but it makes me think of like a little Sunday school song.
Oh, it does.
It makes me think of something you would hear at Vacation Bible School. Y'all okay? Okay, good. Okay. All right. It just makes me think of something to sort of catechize little kids, just something to bring little kids along and teach them what you want them to know.
Yeah, I can feel
Okay.
that. It's a vibe.
Okay, look at the next one. Thank you for that, Leila.
You're welcome. I just felt like nobody was talking.
No, I'm getting a lot of eye contact. I just don't get a lot of
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of response.
We wrote one of these, a style of something or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gerard Manley Hopkins. I did have you. One of the best ways to learn to write poetry or learn to write anything is imitation. I am going to have you.
Making up my own.
You can still make up your own as you're imitating somebody else. Because originality doesn't necessarily mean you're just creating from nothing. Only God does.
Do you remember that reading assignment you had us do where it was like no one's creative ever? Do you remember?
Reading assignment where I said no one's creative ever.
No, you didn't say it. It was like this whole thing about how everybody's original ideas are really just others' ideas.
Yeah.
But I think you can have an original idea, it just be original to you and not the rest of the world. Like I don't think just because it's been
Yeah. You can come up with something that is new to you.
Yeah.
That you have never thought of before.
Not based on somebody else's.
Right.
Stuff.
That's yes. But in the entirety of the world, it's probably not original.
I I get that.
Okay. So back to Gerard Manley Hopkins. Glory be to God for dappled things, for skies of couple color as brinded cow, for rose moles all stipple upon trout that swam. Fresh fire cold chestnut falls, pinches wings, landscape plotted and pieced, fold, fallow, and plow, and all trades their gear and tackle trim. All things counter, original, spare, strange, whatever is fickle, freckled, who knows how. With swift, slow, sweet, sour, a dazzle dim, he fathers forth whose beauty is past change. There's a lot going on there. Yeah, the last line, praise him. Sorry. Yeah, I left it off. I apologize. What do you think he is trying to point to? What is the purpose of this poem? What's he trying to say?
God makes beautiful things.
God makes beautiful things. I really like at the next to the last line, he fathers forth. He fathers forth whose beauty is past change. So in all the other lines, you have change because you have one color melding into another, dappled things. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about color that is mixing with other color. There's a change there, right? And then you get to God who fathers forth, and there's no change in him. So he's comparing there. He's really doing a lot. He's really doing a lot of things, and I don't want to get to. I have to move on. I can't stop and talk, but he does a lot of. He's well known for thick consonants, thick alliteration. He uses the same sound so that you're having to close your mouth, and it's work to pronounce things that he's writing. He's making it hard.
He's mean for that.
He's mean? No, he's not mean for that. Okay. He's well known for that. He's well known for his imagery and thick wording.
With a name like his, you can't not.
I'll let him know one day. One of these days, I'll let him know when I meet him in glory. Okay. So really, really great poetry engages the imagination. It engages the intellect and the emotions and the senses. And subpar poetry does not do that. So next, I found some internet poetry for you.
Internet poetry is crazy.
I found some internet poetry for you.
Internet poetry sucks, man. I'm sorry.
I will, the best one on here, the best one that I found is For the Birds by Robert A. Snow. And I looked the guy up, and I think it's the same guy who actually wrote a book. So
Is this just a
writer.
limerick?
Is he like
It's limerick.
Is he like Dollar General Robert Frost?
Huh?
Is he like Dollar General Robert Frost?
I don't think so, but that's a good comparison. No, I don't think he's a Dollar General version of Robert Frost. No. Very nice. Robert Snow. I get it. What'd you say?
He might be a Walmart.
I think he was his own person. Anyway, he wrote some limerick here. So he actually stayed with a certain pattern. He was intending to make it bounce, and he did a good job with that. So that's the best one that I found. There were some that were not great. The first one there, being you is beautiful. I understand the sentiment. I understand what she was trying to say. But if I had to read stuff like this all the time, I think my eyes start twitching. It's just.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's terrible. It's
In
terrible.
the kindest and most respectful way possible. It really sucks.
It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, do you feel like that when you read art poems? You're like,
No.
wow, these kids are terrible.
No, I don't.
Trash.
I do not. I don't. Y'all are better than this. Y'all are better than this. All of you are better than this.
All of us.
Yeah. You're better than this. Okay. No. No.
She goes through, she's like, one.
No. Okay.
Zero.
So moving through that. Thank you, Leela. Thank you. Okay. So what's going? This lady, this girl, is trying to use rhetoric. She's trying to use big words to punch with her words instead of writing good poetry.
It looks like she wrote a poem and then just ran it through a thesaurus.
She's trying to punch with her. I mean, let's see. Where's the one that there was one that. Okay, in the last. That's where I was going. That's where I was going. So follow your intuition. I was looking for that word secrete because I was like, there's a connotation there, y'all.
Yeah,
what does it mean to secrete? You ooze. Yeah, there's. It makes me think of something coming out on the skin of a frog. You know, if you secrete something. And so she's saying, follow your intuition and secrete your imagination.
I don't like that.
No.
Put it away.
It's rhetorical. She's trying. It's rhetorical poetry. She's trying to use big fancy words, and she's missing the mark. It doesn't work because poetry has a lot of things involved. You have to think about the words that you're using. You have to think about the connotation. And if you're using the word secrete, you're gonna have somebody like me thinking about the slime of a slug. Not what you want to put out into the world. That's not what you want. Okay. Anyway. What? Oh, I don't know. It's
too recently.
In the last 10 years, probably.
Really?
Yeah. It's recent because I just Googled.
Just brought something beautiful up.
What did you say, Sarah?
The last line of the third to last stanza.
Third to last.
So inhale peace and exhale the devil.
What is this?
Inhale peace and exhale the devil. Evidently, the devil is already in her, and she's got to breathe him out.
Somebody in the moment read this and was like, "This is beautiful." You know? I don't understand. They didn't get bullied enough as a kid. I'm sorry.
I don't think that's Leela.
It is.
No, I don't think that's.
It is. I'm telling you.
Being bullied would not help this.
Yes, it
It would
would.
probably
Yeah.
There's no way. It's
Y'all are not very nice.
Not being self-conscious, but you're not. It's bad to not be. You shouldn't be that
Aware.
not self-conscious.
Yes, you should be aware. Yeah, you should be aware. Okay, so what's happening here is she's just emoting. She's just emoting. Maybe she was bullied. Maybe she was.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
She's not.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna see if I can mute that.
Quiet
Video.
coyote. Quiet coyote.
Okay, I don't know what you're doing right now, but you gotta put that away. You're distracting me.
She
Put
looks
your
like
pants
she's
down.
No, it's quiet coyote.
It's like
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
You never do quiet coyote?
No.
No. It's pretty much just another way of saying you need to shut up. right
Okay.
now.
Pretty much.
Okay. All right. What was I saying? I don't know what I was saying.
You were talking
Okay,
about how bad
so-
your poem was. Yeah, we
It
were
is,
talking about
but
awful.
she's just emoting. She's just emoting, and maybe she was bullied, and this is her response. It's just not very good. It's not good poetry. This doesn't minimize the fact that she was feeling whatever she was feeling. That's right. But if you're going to express it in words, you need to do it better than this. This is not good poetry. Okay. Next. I don't have a lot of time. I've got to skip some stuff. I say this every week. Like, I have a lot that I want to get to, and then I'm like overly optimistic about what okay. So, our culture, popular culture, is what makes bad poetry very, very normal. It's very normal for somebody to just emote and say, if you could only just see inside me and how shriveled and dry my soul has become because of what life has been for me. And yeah, it's just blah, 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 blah. You know, but that's normal because of where popular culture has brought us. And I don't know how much y'all know about the 60s, how much you know about, like, maybe a little before the 60s and then a little after. There was a huge cultural turn for us. So up until that point, it was normal for people to be educated in old stuff. You have something to say?
I think it was probably the Roaring '20s that really ushered in that big cultural shift.
There was a lot that led up to it. But even in the Roaring '20s, even in the '20s, you had education that looked back to Shakespeare and Greek mythology and Jane Austen and
I'm reading Pride and Prejudice right now.
Good.
It's so good.
good for you.
It's so
Good for
good.
you. Okay. Okay.
It's not.
But in the 20s, you had people who were reading as a matter of course, as a matter of what was normal. They were reading Beowulf. They were reading the Iliad and the Odyssey. They were reading. Why are you? Okay.
That was a good.
Okay. Okay.
Like that.
Classics, real Greek mythology, not Percy Jackson, because that's
Real
not.
Greek mythology is wild.
It's
It
wild.
is, it really
is
Like
wild.
stuff that was actually going on is crazy.
Yes. So an understanding of what the ancients really actually believed is hidden in some of that. Okay. And up until so George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, when they grew up, they would have grown up watching Saturday series of some kind. They would have watched Rifleman probably.
Oh, what?
They would have watched.
Cinematic gold.
They would have watched
Yes.
something that came on weekly, and they would have, and it wasn't SpongeBob SquarePants. You know,
I've never
they
seen
would
that.
have
We're all just
My Little Pony.
y'all are so
I used to
Okay.
watch
Yeah, I mean, but here's what I'm saying: when George Lucas and Steven Spielberg were watching these things, the creators, the people who created these things, would have grown up knowing the classics. They would have read the classics. They would have known Greek mythology, and so a lot of that is being built into what they are creating. That then catechized George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Y'all know catechism? It's a repeated
Like a
lesson.
Catholic thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so Roman Catholics are well known for catechism. They give you repeated lessons that you're expected to memorize, and it just becomes part of your life, right? And so we do that too. We are catechizing ourselves, and you guys will have kids, and there will be lessons that you will teach to your kids, repeated lessons. And if it's SpongeBob SquarePants and My Little Pony and Ninjago,
Don't hate on Ninjago, please.
Ninjago is so good.
That's
It is.
way different.
I have no idea what
That's way different than creators who are looking far back in history, because they have a deep well of knowledge and history and literature that they can draw from. But when we get to really since the 60s and 70s, we intentionally turned away from what was behind us. It was intentional. We intentionally turned away from what's behind us and said, that's not true. Nothing matters. You can't tell me what's good. I have to decide for myself. I have to look into myself to find where truth is, and nothing that came before is even relevant. Nothing matters. It's dangerous, and so I have a list here of what popular culture gives you versus what traditional culture or even high. Y'all know what I mean when I say high culture? High culture would be classical music and Greek mythology and probably opera, that kind of stuff. We're not familiar with a lot of that anymore because it's not popular. But what is popular now, popular culture is made to be used and disposed of. Whatever is popular now is not meant to last. Like if you have a bunch of I don't know, first thing that comes to mind is Spice Girls. If you have a bunch of Spice Girls CDs, that's not something that you're going to pass down to your grandchildren.
Speak for
You're-
you. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, even if you go a little further back and say Peter, Paul, and Mary,
I don't even know what that is.
more's the pity.
You don't know what the Spice Girls are?
Spice Girls, I
I
actually
don't
don't. I don't know very much about Spice Girls either because I didn't listen.
their name, that's it.
My roommates did in college. My roommates did. All fun, I'm sure, all fun. But that's not something that you bequeath to generations coming after you. You just don't. If you had a Rembrandt painting, and it was not sitting in a museum somewhere, that is the kind of thing that you pass down. Because it's a different kind of art. It's made because people generations back were looking toward the future. They were looking at something beyond themselves, and they were saying, "This has to last. I have to build something beyond me."
Confused about that?
What do you
Like
mean?
how stuff ended up making it through so many generations. You're like, this is what we're going to preserve. Really?
Some things, yes. Some
Just
things,
making
yes.
sure I'm not the only one.
Yeah. Some things I wonder why we preserved them. Yes,
Yeah.
but
Because sometimes people are like, oh, it's a classic for a reason. And I'm like,
some things I don't understand. Some things I don't understand why they were retained. But I will say that the people who created them 200 years ago were looking to the future. They wanted, because they were looking beyond themselves. They were looking beyond themselves, and they wanted to create something that they could give to generations beyond them. They wanted to create something that would last. Cathedrals in Europe. People who built the cathedrals, people who started the cathedrals in the building of it, they didn't live to see it finished.
that's so sad because they're so pretty.
They did, well, yeah, but they were intending for something to outlive them by many, 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 many years.
Like 100 years old.
The 100 Years' War.
Yeah.
Yes. That did outlive many people, didn't it?
Yes, it is. Well, pretty much, well, this dark baby will outlive a bunch of people.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Try to see what I actually have to say. All right. I'm gonna hit this. Okay. Poetry is something that God put all through the Bible. It's all through the Bible. So He values poetry, and He expects us to attempt to understand it and to speak it. And that's just because it's natural to us, and poetry is natural to people. Just because it's natural doesn't necessarily mean it's just easy. Walking is natural too, but you have to learn to do it. And if you stop doing it, what happens to your muscles?
They die.
They forget how to do what they're supposed to do. Walking is natural to people, but if you stop doing it, your muscles forget what they were supposed to be doing. And you can relearn it, but it takes a lot of work. So that's where we are with poetry. Poetry is natural to people. We're supposed to be able to understand poetry because God gives it to us. But when we stop working on it and we throw it over our shoulder and we say, well, this is not really valuable anyway because it's not math or science. It's not history, you know. Once you throw language over your shoulder, then it's hard to get it back. You have to work on it. Okay? But this is natural to us. This is something that we should understand. And I will say, I want to tell you this. Okay. Popular culture has changed our attention spans. It's changed what we are able to do, what we're able to accomplish. The founding fathers, it was not unusual at all for them to be able to write with both hands. They could write 2 letters at a time, one in each hand, to two different people in 2 different languages about 2 different things.
In no world.
It was normal.
Normal?
It was not unusual at all for founding fathers to be able to do things like this. Teddy Roosevelt could do it. Teddy Roosevelt could do that. He could write with both hands in 2 different languages to 2 different people about 2 different subjects and be given alternate paragraphs to 4 different stenographers who were also. I'll find you.
I'm very doubtful right now.
Okay,
Have
I'll find it for
you
you.
seen the video of the girl that draws with both of her feet and both of her hands and it's 4 separate, like, portraits?
Okay.
I
We
thought that
we
was
have lost a lot of what used to be normal. We've lost a lot of what used to be normal because we have turned against what ages before us valued. We don't value the same things. We say, who are you to tell me that this is important anyway? Why does it even matter?
It saves so much time. It does.
If you can do that, yeah. If you can do it. Okay. All right. So I gotta move on. But I do want to leave you with, what are you valuing? What are you gonna hang on to? Because I cannot do what Teddy Roosevelt did. There's no way that I'm ever gonna be able to get to that.
No, with that attitude.
The thing is, he did live in a large country, so he had to have like a very high IQ. So it probably wasn't normal.
It was more than that though, Ethan. It was more than that because that
You have to also think the fine motor skills that takes though.
but generations back, more was expected of people. More was expected educationally.
Yeah, I think public education is a big part of it.
It's part of it. It's part of it, and some of it's intentional. Okay. What time is it actually? My watch says
It is
9:55.
9:56.
All right. Okay.
When do we get riddles?
Um.
Oh, no, yes.
Yeah, we do.
I wanna do riddles.
Terzanelle. This is what we're
I
writing.
decided I like it.
Really?
Yeah, I read through it like this.
You decided. Okay, I gave you 2 examples, and you probably can find others if you just type in Terzanelle examples. All right, look at the second one. Look at the second one that I gave you.
Which one did you write?
Both of them.
Oh. Did you give this to her?
Yeah.
Really? What'd she say? Did she cry?
She hasn't said anything to me yet. Okay, so my son got married and I wrote this for my daughter-in-law. I gave it to somebody who was putting together a gift for her. So I'm not sure that she's really, like, the gift wasn't quite done. So I don't know if she actually has it yet. What? She may not have it yet, but she will. Anyway, look at the second one because I marked that one a little bit for you. First 3 lines. The first 3 lines. Okay, so let me just slow down a little bit. A Terzanelle is 19 lines. Okay, that does not mean that you're writing 19 unique lines. No, some of these are going to repeat. I think it's 12. I think you're actually writing 12 unique lines, but some of them repeat, so it actually ends up being 19 lines long. The first and the third line of every stanza, the first and the third line of every stanza are going to rhyme. All right? You see that? The first and third lines, don't worry about it, man. The first and third lines of every stanza will rhyme. When you have that second line in there, you're going to take that second line and move it down to the next stanza as the third line. Do you see what I did there?
Mm-hmm.
So the first line, you think you'll always be a lonely cloud. And then the third line, just wait and see, your friends will make you proud. Those rhyme. Every stanza, the first and third lines are going to rhyme. But the second line there, without a chance to prove the guy you are, I'm going to reuse that second line in the next stanza. It becomes the third line of the next stanza. Okay? See what I'm doing? Every second line is going to be used again as the third line in the next stanza. Right? When you get down to the last stanza, that is a quatrain. So the others have been tercets, which is a 3-line stanza. When you get to the end, it's a quatrain. It's 4 lines. So you're reusing lines 1 and 3 at the top. You're reusing those at the bottom. All right. You see what I did there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any questions about that? What?
I'm manifesting that we all write it how it's supposed to be written.
Thank you.
Manifesting.
Appreciate that. Okay. Any questions about that? Look, the last page that you have, because we're about to turn away from poetry after this week and we're moving into stories, we're going to start sentence exercises where I'm expecting you to write a sentence based on a pattern that I give you. Okay? So the last page of your packet is the sentence assignment. It's there.
How are we
Okay?
gonna get that back to you?
You're going to email it to me. Okay? And you don't have to email like you don't have to type out all of this. I have the assignment. If you just want to type out your sentence and send that to me, you don't have to type out the whole thing. Just type out your sentence and I'll know that it's for the assignment.
Golly.
What? Okay, any questions? No questions? Be gone. Thank you, guys.